you down with me. Don't try and take me down. I take you down with me. Don't try and take me down. I take you down with me. Don't try and take me down. I take you down with me. Don't try and take me down.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this very special episode of What in Tarnation, a Southern Cure for Quandary. Today is our Christmas holiday episode, and we have a special guest. Everyone, welcome Kat Spradley. Am I saying your last name right?
That is right.
Okay, I don't trust my Southern. So this is kind of like, we're going to look at it like we're telling all the new folks how we celebrate Christmas here in North Carolina. I know for sure we don't have a white Christmas, so that can just go.
No.
I think, was it 1987?
You know what, actually? So we had one in 2010.
Did we? I remember.
We did.
Okay.
So 87 we had one, and 2010. And I could have the 87 one wrong. I was a little bit less of an adult at that point in time. So, you don't really remember, but I remember the 2010 one. So
yeah, we
drove actually from Charlotte area home, which normally takes maybe about 2.5 hours. And that took upwards, I think, of 8 hours to get home from that. But it was a very interesting drive, very beautiful drive on there. So I'll just do a quick intro to who I am. I am Kat Spradley, and I own K. Cradley and Company. We are a strategy firm that cultivates brand, web, social, and marketing efforts here in North Carolina for businesses wanting to scale. And I'm homegrown. I call it bougie, bun level, homegrown, right here from Harnett County. So everything's super local. Grew up here, and I know, Stephanie, you've probably got some traditions as well, because where are you from?
Well, so my mom's side of the family's from Harnett County, like Olivia, and they just call it home. They just say we're going home for Christmas. But I was raised in eastern North Carolina, out in Elizabethtown. That's where I was born.
So definitely born and raised.
But it's funny. I went back home and I was talking to some people. They had just opened a business out there. They're from a different state, and they were like, "You don't sound like you're from here." So. I don't know.
What does that sound like? It's Southernese.
It's like I guess I'm more nasally. Like, I don't want to make fun of my family. It's like, hey, y'all, that kind of thing, like real high pitched. But see, I grew up, well, part of the time here in Harnett County. Then I had my adolescence in Fayetteville, and that's a metropolitan, like people from everywhere.
For sure.
13 years in Raleigh. So mine, we were talking about that with my kids, like, they even have a different Southern accent than I do. It's not as deep, but all Southerners
I think
are
it's pronounced depending on where you go, like Eastern versus Middle versus Charlotte area. We always heard, different variations of that as we went through the states.
And mountain folk, I mean, they got almost their own language.
That's their own. You got it.
My grandma would say things like whoosh, bicycle.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I know we've got some traditions that hold true. I think for our family traditions, when we come down to Christmas time, I think there's a lot of different traditions that people tend to fall in line with. But, I grew up and we were like a free-for-all house. Like, you got up on Christmas morning, right? And you open your presents, everybody just got in one room and like
nobody passed about, you just started
Right.
grabbing. Oh my God.
Yeah, everybody, yeah. Just wide open. Thank you. Oh my God, I can't believe this, whatever, right?
Oh God.
And then I get introduced to my husband's family and they're like, we are going to go around the room with 800 people and we're going to draw one gift and everybody's going to sit there and watch you open it. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. So that was definitely something that was different from tradition side of things for us. I would just remember like being so shocked that somebody was going to sit there watching me open this gift.
This is like a really bad gift, like a big old pair of underwear. You kissed it. Thank you.
Yes, or like you've got your great aunt. I'll pick on my Aunt Lib, rest in peace. But she would regift the old jewelry, right? The old costume jewelry was like this big gaudy piece, and as a 7-year-old opening that, I was like, thank you. Because your mom and dad always are like, you need to say thank you. You need to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, all of the things. So thank you, ma'am, for this, and of course, maybe that's not, what everybody else is used to hearing, get a lot of folks that get offended by the ma'am and sir.
Oh, yeah. I back in the day when I worked in furniture, I worked in Cary, containment area for relocated Yankees, and I would get, don't call me ma'am. And it's like, you were like breaking my brain down because that was instilled.
I know, it's like, I can't.
Like,
I'm going to get a spanking.
Mama's going to come over here and whoop me.
That is it. Like, I'm going to be in trouble. You don't understand. Like, this is big business. I think one of the things that just shocked me too, like in visiting different places for Christmas, are the different foods, right? Like, never in my life. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to, yes, I'm really from Bun Level, and this is what people from Bun Level may or may not think. But for the longest time, I was so impressed by the lines that my grandmother carved into the cranberry jelly that was put out on the table. The cranberry sauce,
Mm-hmm.
and it was in this perfect shape with these lines on it. And it was not until I was probably 9 or 10 years old where my cousin was like, "It comes out the can that way," and I was like, oh my gosh, like, really?
It's like a grandma in the kitchen, like, with a little knife.
Right? Like, making these little lines, right? And then I get to these people's houses, and they have chunky cranberry sauce. I was like, what is this?
That grandma,
I was
that
like, I
grandma's not
can't
a good
eat
grandma.
that.
She ain't in the kitchen carving the cranberry.
I know. But it would be like the chunky stuff with the actual cranberries and stuff in it. And when I first saw it, I'm like, what is this? I have never seen this in my life before. And they were like, oh, you have to try it. It's really good. This is cranberry sauce. I was like, that is not cranberry sauce. That is not it,
gloop.
right?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it looks like kind of like the Jell-O glooped with some different things in there. And sometimes they'll put like shaved carrots and I'm like, carrots don't go in there either. Like, I was like, I just kind of like the jelly kind of consistency works for me. So that was one of the things that we had at every meal, and we still do. And now we have friends that come that bring chunky. And I still love them nonetheless, but I don't eat their chunky cranberry sauce.
Right. Yeah, no. I know. I love, like, I grew up eating canned food, and I had a really hard time, like, going to a fancy restaurant and, like, being served green beans for the first time that were not, they were, like, not squishy and not cooked to beyond,
Yeah, I don't.
original state.
Where they're just kind of like blanched and they want you to eat them? Yeah.
Like,
that's not how it's cooked around here.
No.
It's cooked like until you can't cook it any further.
You have changed the molecular structure.
That is it. That is it. It becomes like a whole new, like we went from solid, it's not quite liquid, but we're getting pretty close to that changeover.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know. I was thinking about Southern food, especially at Christmas. So I became a vegetarian at 13, and I don't like
okay.
Southern.
I did not know that about you.
Yeah, well, my poor grandma from Kelly, North Carolina, was crying because she's like, Lord knows I don't know what to feed you. But, like, every Christmas, like, it was like deviled eggs. It was disgusting. I don't eat deviled eggs. But, like, I made a video before my Facebook account got shut down. That's a whole different story. But I was in the IGA, and I was holding up the ham hocks, and I was like, these are redneck bouillon, because I would think, okay, I can eat these beans. I could not.
They go in the green beans. That goes in there.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, you're not safe if you're a vegetarian.
I know. You are definitely not. What do you do with this stuff, being a vegetarian, and, like, everything has, like, some fat back or ham hock or,
I went hungry for a long time until I started bringing my own food. But,
okay.
Speaking of that.
That's probably got to be a little bit hard to be a vegetarian in a Southern family, though.
It is. It is.
Like, where it's a traditional Southern, because everything is, like, flavored with meat fat.
Yeah. It is. Grandma told me, like, hog killing time. I mean, you didn't waste anything.
No. Oh, gosh, no.
I can imagine, seeing a hog get killed. I couldn't do it.
I wouldn't want to, but I could.
You could.
If I was hungry, yeah. Oh my gosh, I like to eat. I'm sorry. It's just
Yeah.
I could.
I mean, yeah, my grandparents would like back in the day if they wanted chicken, well, they'd go out in the yard and like, and she'd go, I'd wring his neck. I'm like, oh my God, Grandma.
Okay, so I did witness that and had the same chicken for dinner with a client way back in the day in the financial services industry, and we traveled out to see our clients, and I got out of the car as she was like killing the chicken right there, and she said, I know we've got a long day today, but I'm planning on having him for dinner. She was like, so if you want to stick around, we're going to have chicken for dinner. And I was like, does he have a name? And she's like, oh no, we don't name the ones we eat.
That's
just kind of okay. Well, I said that maybe that makes it a little bit easier, right? It was a little bit traumatic for me to see all of that, but it's where it comes from. And I grew up in Bun Level, and my neighbors had hogs, and my other neighbors had cows and rabbits, and they all got eaten. So that was how that worked.
So you and I are in the same neighborhood. I cannot tell you how many times that I would see a hog get loose in our neighborhood, and I just love it. I love it. It's not the first.
We do have. I've only seen one, but I've seen a couple of pigs. But I think they're pretty much potbelly pigs in the neighborhood.
Are they someone's pet, or are they from a farm?
We're not sure. And nobody would own up to it because I think they're all afraid of getting ratted out in the neighborhood. So nobody's like, not mine, not mine.
We've had
and
guineas.
Meanwhile, somebody's bacon's in the back.
We've had a beaver, which I tried to chase it down. I tried to befriend it. It didn't want that. We've had all kinds of stuff. We've got the horses back there.
Yes.
Because they
all sorts of things.
They plunk these subdivisions like on old farms, and they'll just plunk them down anywhere, and so you never know.
Well, and it backs up, it backs up to there, so absolutely. I was trying to even think of like baking cookies and stuff, and I'm really a break and bake queen. I don't do a whole lot of homemade cookie baking or anything like that. Now I can bake a cake all day long and do homemade cake baking, no problem. But the cookie thing, it just seems like, hey, let's just hurry up and get this over with so we can get to the fun part, which is eating. But we've made like the ginger snaps, and I did not know that was not a normal thing until we had some folks over from California who were like, we don't know what that is. And I was like, oh, I thought those were like well known.
Right, I did too.
And then oatmeal chocolate chip cookies, they were like, I cannot believe you put oatmeal in cookies and ruined them. And I was like, oh my God,
what?
They're like the best. Have you ever had them? I was like, this is not fruit in here. This is chocolate and oatmeal. Yeah. It's great. But I mean, obviously I'm not as good as the people like at the Familiar Cookie Company around here or Bake Lab, but there's some good stuff in there. I wish I could do like all the fancy stuff that the Familiar Cookie Company gets in there. Have you seen
Bake Lab? There's this little bakery. And no, they're not paying for the spot, but I love them that much. Like, they opened up, was it last year or year before?
2 years ago, yeah.
Because I'd stalked that window. I'm like, what is this? But
exactly.
They're so good. It's over by Campbell University, so if you're ever traveling in Lillington, go visit them. But you had some cookies out last weekend, and I pocketed 2 of them, and I ate those for dinner because I'm busy. I'm bouncing around. I don't ever eat.
Did you check to see if they were vegetarian? Because I don't know if they are, because we are Southern. I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm not going to ask questions because that's what I ate for. They were so good, though. They're so good.
They were.
No shame in my
They
junk
were so
food
good.
addiction.
I absolutely love going over there. In fact, they're doing some for us coming up, which are the oatmeal cream pie cookies. So
Ooh.
They make the best. And it's like this apple oatmeal cream pie. They're huge, filled with cream, and they're super soft, and they just kind of almost crumble in your hand, but not quite. So it's enough to stay together, but there's no crunch to it. And I do not like my cookies with crunch.
I don't
like
either.
my cookies. I don't understand that. Like, there are people in my family that like crunchy cookies.
They're only good for dipping.
I don't think that's normal.
And coffee and stuff, but yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, like if you were having it and dipping it in something like an Oreo, you dip Oreo in milk to make it not like that anymore. I could see, but just regular, I was just like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I do. We love the cookie making. In fact, that's something that we do at our house every year. Sometimes better extents than others. This year we've been kind of slacking. I'd love to have an excuse for the slacking. It's just life got busy, and the kids haven't begged too much this year, so that's where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, when they're teenagers, getting them out of the room, it's impossible. They're like, I don't want to.
That's
I just
it.
want to eat them. I don't want to.
That's it. But kind of my rule is you got to help out a little bit. If you want to help consume, you got to come in. You got to
Right.
do something.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. So, let's see. I printed off some stuff about North Carolina because I was like, what is it distinctly like North Carolina and those Moravian cookies? Have you ever been to
Oh,
Winston-Salem?
that's huge. I have, yes.
I love it up there.
So I have eaten those before. They're not my favorite.
Yeah, they're hard cookies. But they had so we went for my son's graduation. He graduated in May, and we went to the Kempton Cardinal and stayed. It was amazing. If you ever go to Winston-Salem, go to the Kempton Cardinal and stay. It's in the old R.J. Reynolds building, which used to be like the first Empire State. It's got a whole cool history to it.
Yes, we went out there. It was beautiful out there. There's so many little gems tucked away here in North Carolina, but they had so many good beer spots and snack spots out there, and had some fabulous night pictures from there.
Yeah, so it was a settlement that was settled by the Germans that came from Pennsylvania. So they have their own it's like a own little culture, like in this little. But they're really well known for their cookies. But we had the chocolate chip and oatmeal cookies from their, like in downtown Salem. Oh my God, it was so good.
And they're so good, right? And it's okay to put oatmeal in there.
Yeah.
Tell people.
And those things are huge.
Throw some oatmeal in there.
They're like that big.
But they are crispy, and that was the part where I was like, I have to draw the line.
These
somewhere.
were soft because I don't like the big.
These were? Okay.
But these are Deweys. I got them for, it's probably a reverse, but yeah, these, I mean, they're okay.
Yes.
To dip, I like them, but yeah.
Yeah, those Moravian cookies though, that's a big thing. I think my parents' church just did something with it where they brought in those down at Spring Hill area. They brought them in and had those. So lots of stuff that's brought into this area, and we've got a lot of folks that settled in from German ancestry through here. So
and the Moravian stars, which are really, I don't know if they're like 6 or 8, but they're really pretty. And they do classes out there. So if you ever want to do anything cool, like downtown Salem during Christmas is absolutely gorgeous.
that's a great idea for some family travel too.
What is this? Flotillas. So it's a thing in Wrightsville Beach in Lake Norman where they basically decorate a boat and put it on water. That I've never seen that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay, so this is a normal thing, right? My father-in-law and his wife live on outside of, give me a second, Gastonia and Belmont area.
That's towards Charlotte, right?
It is. So, and they live on the water there, and they have these big parade of boats where everybody decorates their boat, and they have a full parade. Like
That's cool.
It's just like a parade on the road, and I so want to be there and see that one day, but apparently a little too late at visiting to see it this year. But
Yeah.
Maybe if somebody has some video of it or something, they
That
can
sounds like
they can
something-
post it in comments.
It's almost
That would be
redneck.
awesome.
It's almost like it goes out of being like,
Right?
but I like it. And then the Biltmore Estate. Have you ever been during Christmas?
Oh gosh, it was phenomenal. So we have been, and it is absolutely, Christmas is like my favorite time of the year. Like everything is decorated except my car, and I probably would if nobody would say anything about it. But everything is decorated. But I love kind of getting up the Christmas tree and theming out everything, and I think that's pretty normal across the U.S. though, right?
I guess so. Yeah, maybe.
I guess. I mean, I look at that and say, sure. What about stockings for stuff? Like, did y'all like hang up stockings and do things with that? We were just talking about it this morning.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Like, so I don't do this with my kids because they wouldn't eat it, but we always got nuts and oranges in our stocking, and that's a holdover.
Right?
And my grandma, she was, rest in peace, she was born in 1931, and that was the only time that they got fruit was during Christmas.
In that. Yep. We were talking about that this morning because Shannon was in here. Shannon works with me. She's the director of communications for Kay Spradley, and she was like, "What do you put in stockings? You know, like what do you put in there?" And I was like, "Well, like fruit and little trinkets and gifts and stuff." And she was like, "We don't really do fruit anymore." And I was like, "Why not?" And she was like, "Well, I mean, the whole idea behind it was you were putting in there something that you weren't going to be able to get at any time of the, at this time of
Right.
the year. It was like super expensive to get those nuts and fruit to put in there, the oranges, but now you can get it year round." And I was like, I mean, I guess so. And I was sitting there thinking, I wonder if people in Florida always got that in there or not, because wouldn't they always have access to oranges there?
Well, I was doing some research. So apparently, it was more accessible to people who were on the railway. So like my grandparents, but it's still like a once a year luxury to get oranges and things, and that's why. But so
Wow.
yeah, now
Okay.
kids get it all the time. So
And they're like, meh, it's an orange. Thanks.
yeah, I mean, I just got like
She
Godiva
put a
chocolate.
fruit in my stocking.
Yeah, put cash in. That's probably what mine would say. Put cash in there.
That's it. That's exactly what they're asking for.
And then like the most southern thing ever, Christmas parades, because we do it our own way down here.
Yeah, I really thought that was kind of normal that tractors and stuff were in those.
No.
I remember watching the Macy Day Parade, and they had all these floats and stuff, and I was like, where are the tractors? Where are like the homemade floats and stuff? But there was nothing. Like, I mean, it's all professionally, like you really have to have some deep pockets to hit those areas. I mean, when we looked at what that would cost to do something to the professional level of that, I mean, you're looking at the thousands of dollars to place into something like that.
Oh, I can believe it.
So I grew up watching a parade, which would be like, we would have floats come through, but we'd have people in the back of trucks that were decorated. I thought that was pretty normal, right? Had people maybe come in on golf carts or four-wheelers, tractors, and then of course sometimes you had horses come back in the very end of your parade. They didn't allow them in the middle of the parade because of the the cleanup after them and everything, but I really thought that was normal.
Yeah. Well, like I know for some places have banned throwing out candy, but when I was down at Lake Waccamaw during their parade, I mean, it was like trick or treating. It was so much candy. It was wild.
I, I do get like not throwing candy in some respects, but I really struggle with that particular with the parade piece. I mean, that was one of the big things of the parade, right? You were going to go there and get candy. And I think Lillington's banned it. I think Fuquay banned it. I think there was a couple, and you can walk beside it and hand out candy.
Yeah. No, not at this Lake Waccamaw. It was like the kind we had as
Just
kids.
chuck, like
it's so
throwing.
yeah. And the kids were racing out, but I actually had to do some crowd control when I was in Fuquay because I had my press badge on to take photos, and like they changed the route, so some people were going the old way, and people were just like in the middle, and the cops were trying. I was started extending my hand, like, "Stop! You're gonna get hit by a float! Stop!"
Don't get run over.
Don't get run over. Oh yeah, parades. I mean, yeah, I remember being in parades I did the Apex parade, and I remember Charlotte, my daughter. She was in pageants, so she was like the Columbus County
yeah.
Merry Christmas.
You get
So
your
we-
magnet to go on the
Yeah,
side, right?
we did the magnet.
Put it on the side of
And
your
we couldn't
car.
get a sports car, so we just used the SUV with the thing. And I remember being in Apex, which is all highfalutin now, and somebody was losing their mind because they didn't see that she was on somebody's shoulders. They just saw her on top of the car, and they were like, "That child ought not to be on top of that car. She's going to fall down." When we had her, but like you take for granted, like outside of like that people.
Your norm.
Yeah, that's not a thing. Like
That used to be the thing, like if you didn't have socks on your kids, like, oh my gosh, your kid doesn't have socks on. I'm like, have you seen me? Like in my flip-flops that I have my winter flip-flops, my summer flip-flops, I have my dressy flip-flops, they have sparkles on them, but I don't really, I mean, today is a special occasion. I'm wearing boots today, but that's a special occasion. But I normally don't, and people would make these comments about stuff like that. Same thing with the float. Oh my gosh, are you going to let your kid up there? Oh my gosh, are you letting your kid wear, no socks? Are you letting them go barefooted? Are you letting them go without a jacket? And that's one of the fights right now. Are you really going to let him out in shorts? I'm like, Yes, I am. He will learn.
Yeah.
When he gets cold enough, he will learn.
Teenagers apparently don't get cold. They'll wear a hoodie.
That is my thought.
Oh gosh. Let's see. I'm trying to think. So I'm trying to think. I was trying to think of a good story. And I have a couple. Like, did y'all ever do like the live nativity scenes?
Oh my gosh, we did.
Is
We
that a
so
Southern
did.
thing? I mean, or is it?
I'm not sure, but I somehow talked at the time, I don't really feel like my friends were super religious, right? And so I had brought them to youth group and stuff, and I still don't really consider myself super religious,
Not
right?
either.
Spiritual, but not super religious. In that, like I'm going to go around and be like, you need to do this or else you're going to hell or whatever. No, I'm like, it's not me. But we did. We ended up doing a nativity, and in true teenager form. Do you remember the song Wild Angels by Martina McBride?
Yes.
We had that blaring from our little boom box, the little boom box with all the batteries, with the CD for our live nativity. And the youth group leader was like, what am I going to do with these? So if Matt is out there, Matt Smith, who was our youth group leader, if he's out there in Fayetteville and happens to hear this, I would love a tag on that for that remembrance of that embarrassing moment that we caused him, because I am sure the church folk did not approve of that.
They probably got some angry letters.
Oh, I'm sure.
I got kicked out of our. So my grandparents went to my mom.
You got kicked out of the nativity?
I got kicked out of the live nativity. Just a kid. But grandparents went to
what
different.
What kind of heathen were you being during that?
Wasn't. So my grandma was a Pentecostal. Do you know?
Okay.
So that's what church I was raised in young.
Okay.
My grandfather was like, that's crazy, I ain't going over there. So he went across the street to the Baptist church, and every year they would do a live nativity. And it was literally like we would wear the choir robes with like a wire hanger bent into. I don't know why.
Yep.
I was a weird kid. And I wasn't trying to be funny, but we had this like angel tree topper that was very robotic. So that's essentially what I was doing the angel as a robot. And I thought it was really cool. Like, I was doing the moves, and my grandma, like, yanked me by my halo and was like,
how dare you?
I know. I sullied the good angel name, so she kicked me out. I didn't get asked back.
You know what? We didn't get kicked out, but we were standing, and you know what? Like, I look back, we were standing on a table, okay? An 8-foot folding table with 4 teenage girls on top of it, and we were not lightweight girls, okay? I'm a heftier, curvy girl, and I kept curvy friends as well. I was not about to have a really tiny friend on there. We were all going to be there together, curvy together. Anyway, I'm thinking back of how dangerous that was, standing on that 8-foot folding table, who had been there for God knows how long. But I'm sure maybe it's built a little bit better than they are these days. But we were sitting up on that, or standing up on that, dancing to the Wild Angels song by Martina McBride. And if that just tells you how bun level that is, I don't know what does.
I've never even heard of bun level. Like, I didn't come over to this side, and then when we bought the house out here, I thought it was Lillington. I was like, how the heck are we in bun level?
Oh, it is definitely bun level. In fact, the church was Flat Branch Presbyterian Church. I think they've changed their name since to like Flat Branch Eco. So if you're like going towards Spring Lake and you look up on the right-hand corner as you're passing kind of the road to the fire department right there, that's the one up on the hill. Mm-hmm.
They probably still got your picture. It was like, don't let her back in.
They're like, do not let her come back in here. No.
What's going on it?
But yeah.
If anyone has studied like history or watch Outlander, my family is still members of Barbecue Presbyterian Church.
I know where Barbecue is. Yeah.
So that's just down the street, like 15 minutes from here. And like, if you've ever watched
our pastor used to do kind of like the back and forth between Barbecue there, and there was one other one. I'm sure I'll remember it here in a minute.
But but they were all connected, and people didn't realize that. But yeah, that's the church where Flora McDonald went to briefly, and then before she settled out in Randolph County, and I think they did her character in Outlander. I haven't finished watching it yet.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because we had a lot of descendants. I mean, I don't know. Have you ever done their DNA, like to see, like?
I haven't. You know what? I am very intrigued to do that. We have a lot of adoption in our family, and it would be very interesting to do that. My dad's adoptive family, I did a whole lot of genealogy on it, and a whole lot on my mom's side. So we are basically from England and Germany. So the Graul family, which are bakers from Germany, and the Carpenters from England. So
I know a lot of the people who have been in Harnett County for a long
things.
time. They're descendants of the Highland Scots, and I did that research, and I'm also a descendant of the Highland Scots and McLean, McLeod, lots of mix.
I think it'd be super interesting to do that. I mean, you find all sorts of things. Like, we did find some adoptive members of the family. Got in touch with them, was just really trying to learn more about them as far as, medical and all that things. Is there anything to be concerned? But it would be really cool to be like, how different did they grow up than what we grew up as, right? Like, what were the differences between there? So I think that would have been super fun to know. However, I don't think they thought that was super fun. So that ended real quick.
Oh,
That
gosh.
ended really quick. Did y'all ever do like Elf on the Shelf stuff or anything
I
like
do
that?
it with my kids, but
Oh,
no, we didn't do Elf on the Shelf. My parents wouldn't have
No.
put that. Nobody. I don't know that I grew up in a trailer park initially, and then we moved the trailer out to like a single piece of land, which is now one of the worst places.
that's an upgrade.
Yeah, worst places in Bladen County. Like, there are murders, there's a lot of crime, drugs, and stuff like that. I still go visit my dad. I'm not gonna just, and not that he liked,
Right.
that's his house. That's but hell no. Like, I remember my earliest memory. It was like I wanted the E.T. movie when it was on VHS, and my dad couldn't find it. So Santa wrote me a note on a ripped up paper bag, but like all of my Christmas presents
You were
smelled
like,
like
man,
cigarette
this looks
smoke.
like from the food line that we went to. Were you like, did Santa run by the food line first?
Like, I had a redneck Christmas. It was like, do not throw away any of them bows.
Oh, right. I thought that was super normal too, right? So we had a whole bow box growing up.
Yeah, I did
And
too.
every time you got done with presents, right, you gathered all the bows and you go put it in this bow box. And I did this at my husband's family. That is a no-no.
You get a 10
We
yard
don't do
stare.
that. And I mean, here I was picking up bows and bags and tissue paper, and like I was smoothing out the tissue. This is my nanny in me. Rest in peace, nanny. But I'm telling you, I got some good stuff from you. Like, I learned how to pick up them bows. I learned how to fold those bags. I learned how to smooth out that tissue paper, fold it back up, and yes, we still reuse it. And in fact, my daughter was wrapping stuff this past weekend, and she wrote on the bags, and I said, hey, in the future, if you're going to do that, write small enough that a sticker will go over the top of
Right.
it, because people like to reuse the bags, right? And she was like, oh, I forgot about that. And so she was like, yeah, I'll start writing smaller. So she did. She was like, is this small enough
That's
for a label to go
almost
over
enough
it?
to disinherit somebody, like, wrote on the Christmas bags, minus.
That is it, and I was just like, okay, I thought this was a normal thing, but we went to kind of more western part of the state in the Charlotte-Harrisburg area, and I got looked at like I was out of this world, insane, picking all
Like,
this stuff
what
up.
kind of hit
But
did
you know
he
what?
bring here?
Girl, I don't think for at least 10 years I bought any bows, any tissue paper, any bags, or boxes, because my mom would collect these boxes anytime that she would go to
Yeah.
stuff. Now, of course, Amazon, coming to your house, you get boxes
Yeah.
galore. You don't even have to go out and ask, Belk or whatever for boxes. But we did Santa growing up, but I decided when our kids came along, we were just going to let them decide. We weren't going to tell them, yes, it's real. No, it's not real. So if there's any kids listening right now, you need to turn this off. But what we decided was it was one of those things that they needed to kind of figure out on their own. So we placed gifts out. We didn't put any to or from on there. We did the stockings, put those up, and my son really didn't ever ask except for one time. And when I told him, I was like, well, if you want me to tell you the truth, I was like, the spirit of Santa is real. People give. And he
Yeah.
was like, you lie, and I was like, oh, okay. Right. And then my daughter's thing was she had come up with this elf that we had that was on the tree. It was my husband's Christmas ornament. And, from when he was a kid, and she just said, it was our elf on the shelf kind of thing, right? And she was like, "Do not touch that, do not, because if you do, you'll ruin it for everybody." And I was like,
"You'll take its magic."
Right? And I was like, I'm not following, because of course we're not a big TV household. We're not, we're not ultra conservative or anything. There's just so many other things out there to do besides TV and mess. So we do. But I just laughed about it because I was like, so we went along with it for a little while. And so I think we're now at the age where both of them kind of do can we ask for stuff from Santa? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm like, sure.
Okay, I got a question. Pecan pie or sweet potato? Which would you go for?
Oh, I'm so glad that you said pecan. That's another
My
thing.
husband, he's from Washington State. He's like, it's pecan. I'm like, shut up.
It is not pecan. Or what is it? Pecan, or what is somebody else? There's another
variation of pecan.
I think so. Pecan. I don't know. Anyway, I was just like, it's pecan on there, but. You know what? I don't eat either one of those. My dad does, because we had pecan trees in the backyard, and we would actually pick our own pecans and do that. And then I had our last house in Irwin, we had 2 beautiful pecan trees. They were probably somewhere around 150 years old.
Wow.
According to all the people that we had talked to, that had lived there prior, and the people that had originally built the house, because the house was like 110 years old.
Oh, wow.
It's a beautiful house. But yeah, I was just like, why not? We have it here. So I would make I didn't eat them, but I did like the pecan pie bars. And they were super, I like to bake. Not really cookies, again, break and bake girl, but I like to make like cake-ish type things. Not really pies either. And I'm good at eating the cake. But I never really learned to make like sweet potato pie or anything like that, or pumpkin pie. But my kid does. Now, he makes a really good pumpkin pie, and I don't even like pumpkin pie at all. But I will eat his. Not a lot of it.
Yeah.
But it's more of an obligatory eat.
Yeah.
Your kid made it. You got to...
Did you know that North Carolina
But it is good.
Yeah, is the #1 producer of sweet potatoes anywhere?
I believe it. And I wonder statistically how long that's been.
1971. But it started after Prohibition, because our state went into Prohibition before the federal, 10 years before.
Okay.
So all the wine, the farmers that were growing grapes, they had to find different products quick. And so sweet potatoes, because I grew up eating a lot of sweet potatoes and a lot of rice, because it was inexpensive. And you can keep sweet potatoes all through the winter.
Year round.
You can just, put them in in a cellar type thing, or in your, shed under layers, and they'll keep.
So question, where did y'all keep them, in the shed?
In the shed, or out in the buildings, what my grandparents call them.
This might be another southernism, I don't know, but we used to, some of the people I knew where we lived would have, the little crates that went up under the bed, you would just slide it up under there, because it's dark and cool.
My grandma wouldn't have kept food like that. I think she'd have been terrified to do something and nibbled on it.
Yeah, or our neighbor was like, oh, yeah, you just stick the watermelon, you can put watermelon and keep watermelon for a long time that way, too. Keep it cool and in a cool spot, and I was like, really?
I mean, my grandma, they were really late to get electricity. I know that. And she told me, to keep milk fresh, they would actually tie it in a stream and sink it down to the bottom with a string to keep, cream and milk and stuff and butter fresh.
Okay.
Yeah.
That probably works.
Yeah. It was, they were out in the woods,
That's funny, though. You just kind of look at stuff and you're like, okay. And honestly, I didn't know anything about, sticking stuff under the bed. I don't know. I kind of would have
I'd be afraid it
little bit of a
bust open and oh God, can you imagine the bugs
under your bed? Exactly, bugs. That's exactly where I would go with that. I have a little bit of a bug phobia.
I do too. I don't like them in the house.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
No, period.
And I asked you this before we started rolling, but so after Christmas towards New Year's, it's a tradition to eat collards and black-eyed peas. I think collards are the stinkingest thing. I won't eat them. nor will I eat black eyed
I
peas.
can't eat foods that stink like that. And I know that people talk like, I think there's like, what is it? Collards supposed to bring you prosperity in the new year. And
Yeah, the
black eyed
collards
peas
are for
supposed to bring
money,
you
and
luck.
black eyed peas are for the coins. But I'm
Good
like,
luck or whatever. And I'm like, I'm good. I'll make my own.
yeah.
I'm good.
Well, there's one thing, my grandma, you didn't say anything about her food. Now, she was a great cook, but I'm sorry, but collards stink. They smell like a wet
They
fart.
do.
And I walked in the house one day. I said, oh, God, that smells nasty. And it made her so mad. She goes, well, I put a pecan in it. I'm like, yeah, that pecan ain't working. Your trick don't
It is
work.
not doing what it needs to do.
It smells like a fart. It stinks.
It does, and I think I was probably maybe 6 or 7 before my mom first cooked them in the house, and I was like, "Ugh, what is that?" But our neighbor, so you have to know when you live out in Bun Level or maybe rural areas like that. I really did not know any of our neighbors' last names for the longest time. So it was Meemaw was our neighbor. Like, she was not my Meemaw. She was actually the neighbor's Meemaw. And because everybody called her Meemaw, she was my Meemaw too.
Aww.
So Meemaw would cook collards all the time, and I would smell it in there, and I'd just be like, I gotta go. Like, so it was between that and the cigarettes and collards. I was just like, I was like, oh no, this is not good. But growing up in an area like that, you hang out with people like they're your family, even when they're not your family. I mean, like, I still keep in touch with all of those people, that I grew up with there. You know what's going on in their lives, not just by Facebook, but because you really know, who they are and what they're doing. But I wouldn't trade it for the world growing up in this area. And even though, I've moved away for about 10 years and come back, it's still absolutely 100% would do it again.
Yeah. And it's scary to see it grow.
It is.
It is a little. I mean, there are good things, but there's a different.
Yep.
I wonder if someone, moves out here and they really start to experience, because we're really kind of out of that bubble of Raleigh. I think eventually we will, but with us being across a river, like, I mean, it has to be definite culture shock for anybody,
We do, and we've talked to like some of our neighbors. Even we're talking about like how long it would take to get EMS, or how long, and I'm like, I mean, a good 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and they're like, kind of give you the look like, well, if you call the police, a good 15, 20, I mean, that's the type of thing living out in rural North Carolina. I mean, you're going to have to be okay with those sort of things.
And everybody knows everybody,
That is it. Don't ever talk bad about anybody, anywhere, in a small area, because somebody is related to them. No doubt.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Oh, and they're going to tell on you, so,
Absolutely.
But, yeah, everybody knows
Absolutely.
everybody, and I mean, you just got to, it's hard to get integrated. I had that problem, like, you kind of, because, they've had it their way for so long. And then, you come, and now it's funny because I'm very introverted, but now after living out here for 5 years, I find myself, like, talking to people in the store. I'm like, why am I talking? Oh, God, I'm doing it too.
That was yesterday. My son, like, why did you just wave at those people? And it was just a random, like, going down the road, and I saw people outside, and my hand just went up,
Yeah.
And he was like, do you know them? And I was like, no. And I kind of had to, like, laugh a little bit, because when they were younger, I'd be like, stop waving, stop doing all that, right? And here I am as an adult going down the road. Hey, over here.
Let me talk at you a little bit. That's what,
That's it.
Southerners say. I know I was working.
How about it? Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, I was talking to someone at the chamber in Elizabethtown, because I'm working on the book, and she said that she had them tell her she was wide open, and she didn't know what in the world that meant.
Wide open meant?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, yes, wide open. What you want to do?
Yeah, like what to me, like when my dad like, man, she is hyper, she is wide open today, and I was just like running around, But she was like, how do I
Absolutely.
interpret that? The Southern.
It's not a bad thing.
No.
Your schedule can be wide open. That means it's free. If a person's wide open, it's kind of free and wild. My favorite one for me growing up, and I did not realize this wasn't normal, so our best friends are from Texas, but it is, let me let you go now. It's the whole like, like I'm done with this. Let me let you go, okay?
I didn't
And
realize that
she
was
said,
you
I
know,
didn't. I didn't think that was abnormal, right? I always thought it was kind of just a nice, polite way of being like, I gotta go now, but let me let you go.
and then they talk for another 30 minutes, and the poor kid's like,
That's it. It's the pre-goodbye.
yeah,
The pre-goodbye, the get ready to, get everybody on that second goodbye, and then for the third one, it's the for real.
yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing like out in the country, like it don't honk at us when we're at a stoplight because they got to speak at their neighbor. And I'm like dying. Like, come on, y'all. The light's green. Let's go. I know we need to wrap it up, but you mentioned something earlier, and that was shopping at Belk's. That's a North Carolina company, and that's a uniquely North Carolina. That's like fancy. That's like if you got something with Belk's on it.
Yeah.
That's highfalutin.
Okay, so growing up, I did not realize that it was like a fancy store. And we would go, and my parents would get me a Belky Bear from there,
Aww.
or my grandmother would get me a Belky Bear for there. And I had like all the Belky Bears from like, I don't know, from like age 3 to maybe 10, something like that. And then of course you kind of grow out of that stage, and it wasn't such a big deal to me. But it wasn't until later in life that I realized they were shopping at one of the higher end stores around us, right? Because I never went in there. Like I didn't really know what was in there. I knew we had one in Dunn. I knew there was one in Sanford when I was probably 13 or 14. I knew there was one out there, but I never really went in it. And in fact, so I grew up without, like, I didn't really do the whole name brand thing. It just never really caught on. And people pick on me to this day because somebody will be like, oh my gosh, I know I'm in the wrong area because this chick has this Gucci whatever or this whatever bag. And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, is that expensive? Is it not? And then she's like, what? You don't know what it is? I'm like, I have no clue. Like, I just have a pocketbook that holds crap. Like,
and you said pocketbook. That's it.
Yes.
You didn't say purse or handbag. It's pocketbook.
It's pocketbook.
Pocketbook. We don't say robe. It's a house coat. My dad go, all right, give me my house coat. There's something at the door.
Yeah. And there is, and there's some certain things like that. You come back here, y'all. You just things that you hear folks say, and you think it's normal your whole life, and you go away, and somebody says, "Nobody says let me let you go now."
Let me put it in the buggy. Get me a buggy. I say cart now, buggy, but yeah.
Yeah.
Or put it in the boot.
I still say cart. What do you change the channels with on your TV?
A remote.
Okay. Yeah, I always thought it was a remote or a clicker.
Or you.
Was what?
In the 80s.
Yeah, and we called it a clicker, right? And I did not know that was not a normal term because that was pretty common around here. But when we would go to Salisbury, Charlotte, if I wanted the TV clicker, they would look at me like, what specifically are you trying to do to the TV? And I was like, to change the channel.
Well, back in the day, in the 80s, that was just a kid. Like, go on, you got to turn the, analog TV. Right?
Yeah, turn it to channel 11 over there. Turn it to channel 17 or channel 5, and that was the only 3 you got. Yeah. So you better be happy with them.
There's a picture of my cousin and I, and it's a really bad photo. We're outside, I think the Wilmington Belks, back in, like, the 80s, and, like, Grandma would say, now you put all them bags and put them in the boot so Papa don't see what we bought today.
Yeah.
And I never realized that saying put it in the boot was like that's actually a British term, so it must be a holdover.
It is. I think there's a lot of that comes through on there, so you're absolutely
but
right.
I haven't heard anyone use that in a long time, so I don't know. Maybe that's a regional thing, but
it could be.
Well, I know that we could probably talk forever and a day, but I want to tell everyone that I hope that they all have a wonderful and safe holiday season. An interesting tidbit, if you bring in mistletoe, it's not only is it a poisonous plant, but it's like, what do you call it? Like it's a parasitic plant. So be careful.
It is.
But we used to go out and go cut our own, and there's some behind the food line out here in Bun Level.
Wait, you cut it? So in Bun Level, you would take your gun and shoot it down. So this is no joke. So the people living where I grew up will 100% confirm this, that we have been out there and shot down mistletoe on multiple occasions.
Okay, that's not just country, that's some redneck. So I love it.
Could be bun level bougie, maybe.
Okay, well, I was thinking about going and getting some out of the tree by the food line, but I will not shoot it down because I think the police...
Don't. No, you need to be outside of city limits to do that.
No, we used to use the pruners to cut it down and go out in the woods. But yeah, that's
No,
I don't know if that's probably not a southern
I mean,
thing.
we do have those, but it was so high up. I mean,
It is,
Yeah.
as my grandma, poinsettias. Poinsettias,
Yeah.
those are also poisonous, so don't eat them.
they are.
They are. I don't know why Christmas and poisonous. We're like, you know what? That's poisonous. Bring it inside. Kiss
And
it.
have it for everybody around.
Have it for everybody around. Well, it has been a delight to have you on the show, and I definitely will have you
thanks so much.
back again. Thanks for being my co-host and tolerating me all these years.
Well, I appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas and enjoys some relaxing with their family and friends, or maybe just their friends if they choose that, and to be able to just kind of relax into the new year and make it a good one.
Yeah, and if
Lifetime, quit, let's just step right, or it's wartime, yeah. Don't try and take me down. I'll take you down.
Thanks for listening to What in Tarnation, the podcast, a production of Urban Fringe Media. This podcast was written, researched, and produced by Stephanie Barnhill Neal, with voice narration by Jennifer Kennedy. For more information, please visit urbanfringenc.com.